All right, what's up, everybody? This is Emmanuel, live at South by Southwest EDU with Philly Goes to College. I got Dr. Hassan with me, and I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself and just share with y'all some of the things that he shared in the session, and we're gonna have a little conversation.
Peace, fam. Dr. Hassan Brown. I did a session here at South by called Nurturing the Nurturer, a wellness blueprint for Black male educators. I work in ed tech. That's my main 9-to-5 job. I introduce young people to computer science and STEM careers. But what gives me the energy to sustain myself through this work is what I do in the wellness space. And so I'm a registered yoga teacher, 500-hour yoga teacher. So I bring health and wellness resources to communities in need, and also people in need like myself.
Awesome. Before we dig into things, I gotta know. So again, where'd you go to school?
Oh, Morehouse.
Morehouse. Yes. Can you talk to people about how Morehouse helped shape what you're doing right now, the importance of HBCUs? You could have went to any school in the nation. Why'd you choose Morehouse?
So I'm from New York, so like Morehouse wasn't even a thought for me. I was actually trying to go to Philly.
Okay.
I was trying
word.
to go to either
Okay.
Texel or Temple or Drexel.
Word.
But my mom, she put me onto Morehouse. I went down, checked it out, and what I learned there was really invaluable. Morehouse is so much about steeped in like service and giving back that, in addition to no matter what your major is, they're always asking you, okay, how are you giving back to the community? So that was like my mantra that as I moved through my work as like a social worker, educator, philanthropy, and now here where I'm at now, I'm always trying to figure out who's at the table, how can I expand the table, build my own table, but service is always very core to like that HBCU experience. And I feel like HBCUs right now are even, we need them more than ever, as affinity spaces are under attack. Black and brown kids, we need to feel loved on, we need to learn our history, right? From folks who, look like us, sound like us, understand our lived experiences, so I'm a full supporter of it.
So from Morehouse to yoga, from New York, what part of New York?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, okay.
Crown Heights,
Brooklyn,
Flatbush.
Crown Heights, okay. Flatbush, House, okay. How'd you go from that to yoga? Like, how does your major even play into all of this? Like, what you majored in school and all of that?
Me, yoga was like, I thought it was just like stretching,
Yeah.
I finished lifting my weights, I'm gonna touch my toes, but what I learned was through like my teacher training was that yoga is not just about like the asana or the movement, it's like the whole philosophy behind it, man, about being mindful, thinking about, how you relate to yourself, how do you relate to others, being still. Right now we're in the middle of like this hustle culture where hustling is sexy, right? You gotta go. And when you're always in that autopilot mode, you often lose track of who you are, what your intention is, and also just like sitting right in your body, right? The body's almost like it's like a machine. If you have like a sports car and you got that foot on the gas 24/7, the car, you're gonna get wear and tear, bro.
Yeah,
the car's
you're
not
gonna
gonna
burn
last.
out.
So if we think about the body, it's like this organic, machine, this organic system. How do we find times to slow down and stop, despite how busy our schedules and despite how busy our days might be, finding stillness, finding peace, while also having intentional movement. For me, that's helped me show up better as a husband, better as a father, better as an educator, better as a leader in my organization.
Wow.
So I've seen and felt the benefits of yoga. So I'm always whenever I can, I'm like, want to talk about yoga?
Yeah. And that's amazing. I was in one of the sessions. I was in your session yesterday towards the end, and I was like, "Go!" when you're like, when Jarek did the handstand, and you're like, everyone got to do that now. I'm like, wait a minute, bro. Like, I ain't trying to. But
you used to give me all a hard time.
No, I know. It was all jokes. I know. But that leads me to the topic of your session, right, which was focused on black teachers, right, black educators and mental wellness in the space of education.
Yeah.
For the educators out there that are interacting with our content, could you just drop a couple of jewels on the importance of these practices, even just at an entry level, and how it plays into the impact they have on students?
Yeah, so I assume that if you're watching or listening, if you're an educator, that you came into this work because of the hard work, right? No one came into education to become a millionaire. And so we know that the work is fast-paced. We know that the work is hard. And so what I'm offering you is an opportunity to sustain yourself, to be in this career for more than 3 years, 5 years, right? And so that requires taking care of yourself, right? I flew to get here from the East Coast, and the first thing that they say on the airplane, if in the case of an emergency, you got to put on whose oxygen mask first. Put on your mask first.
Yeah.
in order to help the person next to you. So the gems that I offer is, despite how busy your day is, 3 to 5 minutes, whether you do it at school, at home, maybe in your car when you're parking up, about to go into the school building, take that 3 to 5 minutes to like set an intention for yourself for the day. Check in with your mind, body, and spirit. Feel how your energy is. Just visualize what you want to happen within that day. Take a few solid breaths, mindfulness, and meditation. We often think that we have to have like an hour long to do these kind of practices, or have a yoga mat and wear fancy yoga clothes. None of that is necessary. The invitation is just to find stillness throughout the day, and moments to reflect on how you're feeling, right? Stop and pause and feel how you're feeling in your body, and use that to inform how you move through spaces.
Amazing. Feeling through your body, informing how you're moving through spaces. Can we speak to some students who could maybe apply some techniques to studying, or even like the stress of school? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I
mean, what's great about yoga is that it doesn't have to fit within any one particular context. Like yesterday during my session, one of the teachers was sharing that, he meditates when he's like in the sauna, like at the spa.
Right.
And it's great to do that, but really to me, when you want to meditate is when you're in the middle of the storm, right? When those finals are coming up, that's when you really need to like find calm and stillness. If you're already in calm and still environment, it's cool to do it, but apply the tool when when your feet are against the fire, and it's easier to do that when you have an established practice, right? So, when you wake up in the morning, 35 minutes before your feet even hit the floor, just to kind of set an intention, how do you want your day to go, right? Take a few, there's some breathing techniques you can use. One that I want to offer is called box breathing.
Yeah.
You inhale for a 4 count, you hold the breath for a 4 count, you exhale for a 4 count, you hold the breath again for a 4 count, and then you inhale again, filling up the lungs, right? Do about 4 or 5 rounds of that. I do that every morning, and honestly, even like when I'm in like a high stressful situation, that calms my nervous system, and oftentimes it gets me to kind of think before I react.
Yeah.
Which a lot of kids, we get into trouble because we react before we think.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I was doing them box breathing during the session yesterday.
Yeah.
I've done box breathing before, like at work. I was another nonprofit I was working at. Right before meetings, this guy would come in and be like, "All right, let's do box breathing."
Yeah.
And so what I realized out of box breathing is the ability for you to not only be present, but actually the reality of and grounded in where you are at in the moment. You know what I mean? Being present, exactly. That's just being present. But for some people, that might be like a new experience, not knowing or exactly understanding what being present in, especially in a college environment, or if you're sitting in class, taking in maybe a boring lecture. Could you speak to something like that? Could you riff off of something like that? What I'm saying, like think about like you in class, the lecture is about trigonometry, and you're like, bruh, like, you know what I mean? I ain't trying to hear all of this, you know what I mean? And that may not be a crazy stressful situation, but it might be stressful for someone who those concepts may be complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the mindfulness practice is great in that it works as an interpersonal relationship tool, but also intrapersonal. So how are you talking and relating to yourself? Sometimes the voice or the distraction isn't even external stimuli, it's what's going on inside of our head and inside of our body. And so yoga, it provides a way to also temper what's going on inside. So if you have like that voice that's like, man, this is boring, this is this is that, stillness, that quiets that voice, right? By breathing, it quiets that voice, right? It gives you a chance to almost observe the voice and not be subject to it, but or reactive to it. You can hear the voice and just kind of like move it out of the way, right? And there's power to that, because now you're not responding or reacting to anything that's triggering either on the outside or on the inside. And so that's why I think like having like a mindfulness, having like a standing practice of mindfulness and meditation, it allows you to get to know yourself a little bit better. So when the rubber meets the road and you are in spaces where like you're bored, the mind wants to wander, it happens to all of us, right? But by having a way to kind of like harness, like throw a leash around like that inner chatter and calming it, that's really the goal. Stillness of mind and stillness of body.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's totally true. What is it saying? You can't operate a car drunk. So why operate your body not sober-minded? You know what I mean? Not sober-minded, not sober thinking. You know what I mean? That makes a lot of sense. All right, Dr. Hassan. So I read that you went to Harvard and Morehouse.
Yeah.
Can you speak how the combination of those schools play a role in what you're doing currently? I know you shared that you have a background in tech, but it seems like there's a part of it yes, there's a tech background, but there's this passion for yoga and wellness and everything all together. Can you just speak to how your experiences at those institutions have played such a vital role in what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so the work that I do now is all about providing opportunity for young people from underserved communities
Right.
to get access to computer science careers, STEM careers, tech opportunities. Um, Morehouse, from early on, is still like this idea of like service. Um, Harvard granted me it expanded my perspective on understanding that with great power, great privilege comes great responsibility. And so Morehouse was a service piece. And even at Morehouse, understanding when you graduate Morehouse, there's a whole mystique around it, right? Like we all regular, but let's throw a mystique around it. And the same like for Harvard, right? This is an Ivy League institution,
Right.
and so the onus was placed on us from very early, that we are in seats that could have been occupied by any other number of individuals.
Right.
And so I always walk through spaces understanding the great privilege that I've had and the responsibility that I have to open doors, expand tables, and provide opportunities to people behind me. And a lot of that was actually learned like when I was on the streets. Like I used to work as a social worker in New York City. And so in engaging with kids and families there, I got a chance to really understand and as a classroom teacher,
Right.
I got a chance to understand, okay, what is my expectation and what is the lived reality for folks, and then how can I bridge and bring all the resources and experiences and privilege that I've had throughout my academic and personal career in life. How can I really pay that forward?
Right.
My program at Harvard was I was one of 24 individuals, right? I think like a 7% or lower acceptance rate. A lot of people apply for this seat, so I don't take that lightly. And so in many ways, I'm trying to expand the table, expand the seats, get more people in there. And then the expectation as I do so is that, as I, mentor folks, is that I expect them to do the same. Right? So we lift as we climb.
Yeah. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. All right, so we're going to hit you off with some quick fire questions for the end, okay? Don't worry, it's all good. No pressure, brother,
Okay.
no pressure. All right, Doc, if you can share with us, what was your favorite college memory between the two institutions?
All right, so for Harvard, it was actually getting a trip to travel to Asia. I went to Singapore, I went to Japan, had a chance, I went there for education stuff, but I'm a big foodie, so I was hitting up all the ramen. I was doing all of it. I took over Tokyo, bro. And at Morehouse, I remember freshman year, we had a dorm fight. It was but it was our dorm versus the football dorm, and we had we just had a big ass brawl in the middle of like the quad, but it was fun, and the school, they allowed us to do it, which was wild. Security, they saw that we weren't serious, and so I appreciated like them understanding that we needed that outlet. And as a teacher, I use that same approach when I'm looking at kids. It's okay, I know what the policies are, but also what do these kids need right now? Have some fun, you know what I'm saying? So they let us have a little skirmish and all that, and it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, word. Okay,
it was
okay.
60, 70 of us just Royal Rumble, just in the middle of the grass. It was just so looking back at it, I don't know what got into us, but it was a good time.
Unless you got movement, you got to get the energy out. Right. I can dig it. All right. If you could say one thing to your high school self, what would that be?
You're doing all right. Yeah, you're doing all right. I feel like kids need to hear that more often.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's great.